Hello and welcome to Mid-Coast Morning, CHLY's weekly current affairs show. I'm Joe Pugh. Here's what we're following this week. Things have come full circle for Lisa Fletcher, Nanaimo's new police superintendent. The Ladysmith native spoke with our Elijah Robinson about her new post and how she views policing in the city. And this coming week is the best time to watch the Perseid meteor shower. But what are we actually seeing when we take in the spectacular skies each August? Dr. William Weller, a member of the Nanaimo Astronomy Society, gave me the answer to that and so much more when we chatted about the year's biggest annual astronomical event. Plus, live theater is coming back to Nanaimo this week with the Fringe Festival starting Thursday. Artistic managing producer Bryony Dixon let me know a bit about what we can expect from one of the first in-person festivals our city's seen in some time. And do you think you could survive an entire year only eating what you grew and caught? A Pender Island couple did just that and shared some of the lessons they learned along the way. And finally, the Regional District of Nanaimo has some new landscaping staff. They work long hours, never complain, and make well below minimum wage. That's because they're goats. I talked with Jane Hamilton, Superintendent of Landfill Operations with the district, about the new hires. We begin, however, with a look at the headlines. From CHLY's Elijah Robinson.
On August 4th, a local nonprofit opened its doors in downtown Nanaimo to anyone in need of a safe space. The Rise Bridge Project opened a safe space in Unit 4 on 34 Nickel Street, otherwise known as the Old Fire Hall. The project is spearheaded by professionals dedicated to serving Nanaimo's diverse community in a safe way. On the Rise Bridge Project Initiative, Executive Director Siobhan Johnson says,
Rise Bridge, if anything, is a community collective offering a safe space within our Mid-Island area. We're formed by several peers and professionals who are already working in active advocacy and social services spaces within our community, and really just saw and identified some gaps that we really felt like needed to be addressed, especially on the short term, to be able to help kind of restore connection and culture within our community here, and especially offer programming for BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, individuals and community members, and just offer a safe space that people can drop into, share stories of resilience or racism that they may have been experiencing, and offer resource connections to all of the other organizations and agencies and programs that exist within our Mid-Island area currently.
Starting next week, the safe space will be open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week to remain as low barrier as possible. On Tuesday, Rock City Road was closed off from Ocean Pearl Terrace to Barrington Road for 4 hours after an off-road motorcycle crash involving a Nanaimo man. The incident occurred around noon. The man sustained life-threatening injuries and was airlifted to a Victoria hospital. Investigators were unable to find a motorcycle helmet at the scene of the crash, and they speculate that speed may have been a factor in the incident. Police spoke with witnesses who said they heard a crash and came out to find the man and a bike lying in the ditch. Investigators are asking for any motorists that were in the area at the time of the crash to check their dash cam video. If they have video of the crash or any pre-collision driving, they are asked to contact the Nanaimo RCMP non-emergency line at 250-754-2345 and quote file number 2021-28904. The Nanaimo RCMP is asking for the public's assistance in locating 69-year-old Robert Knight. Knight's immediate family recently learned that his vehicle, a black 1999 Dodge Dakota pickup, was found abandoned on Fry Street in Nanaimo. All efforts by his family to locate him have been unsuccessful, and as a result, they are worried for his safety and well-being. Knight is a Caucasian, 6 foot, 177 pounds, and has white hair and blue eyes. If anyone has information on the whereabouts of Robert Knight, they are asked to call the Nanaimo RCMP non-emergency line at 250-754-2345 and quote file number 2021-27947.
Lisa Fletcher was recently installed as superintendent of the Nanaimo RCMP. She was formerly the acting detachment commander and brings 29 years of experience to the role. To find out more about her new position and her approach to policing in the city, our Elijah Robinson spoke with Superintendent Fletcher earlier this week.
I understand you grew up in Ladysmith. What does it mean to be promoted to superintendent for not only the largest detachment on the island, but also the community you were raised in?
It's been a pleasure to come back and work here in the area that I grew up in. And I can draw on previous knowledge and sometimes even previous relationships that I've grown over time within the community. And, you know, I was kind of curious. I came back and I encountered two really influential teachers that were still working in the community and had gone on to other areas. And it's just nice to, you know, continue those connections.
Can you tell me a bit about your responsibilities as a superintendent? What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, my role as the detachment commander, it's multifaceted. So in the large scale picture, I work on securing resources, so personnel, equipment, and training for all of the members that are here at the detachment. And that allows them to work more effectively and timely to complete their main jobs. I also work with the City of Nanaimo senior leadership team, and I work with them to assist them on really the city mandate, which is serving the residents of Nanaimo and the surrounding area. So I contribute in ways in terms of planning and parks and just general discussions that I can assist with in any way. And, you know, at the center of my role has always been around service. So when I first started out, you know, I was really interacting with people in the community and providing individual service when I was responding to calls. And now, as I've gone up through the various ranks, I'm still doing that, but I'm doing it collectively through the detachment. So my role is still about providing service to the community, but from the team perspective of all the detachment members. In terms of what does my day look like, we start first thing in the morning, and it's a series usually of meetings with my senior management team, and we learn about the pressures that have gone on in the last 12 to 24 hours, what our long-range plans are for operational pressures, as well as planning and training and finance and equipment and all of those things that are needed to keep things rolling.
Okay, and can you speak to what the pressures are right now?
I would say that one of the largest pressures, and every summer you experience it, but Nanaimo is experiencing high call volumes. And the calls that we're attending to are often, you know, more complex societal issues, and they're not easy to solve, and they're not usually the same traditional criminal issues. And those calls that involve mental health, addiction, and sometimes the interplay of criminal activities, they aren't simple solutions that come quickly. So it often involves more partners, more cooperation with Crown Council, our provincial partners through healthcare and probation. And there are also calls that require more than one member to attend. So when you combine all of those factors together, it is very time involving, and the solutions aren't simple either. So we recently had an evening shift, and I had been notified of it because there had been a delay in responding to a call. It was really not criminal in nature, but a call that police would sometimes attend. And there was a delay in us getting there. And when we looked at the stats, we had 40 calls in 4 hours. So when you break that down, that's 10 calls per hour roughly, and you have the equivalent of 6 minutes to respond to that call. There's no way you can maintain that type of volume with the resources. So calls did get backed up, and they're prioritized based on the risk and urgency of them. So the call that we had gotten was about people loitering in a park, and it was some time before we were able to respond to that.
I understand that some of these problems are external, outside of the police station or detachment. What can the community do to help mitigate this issue of overflowed calls?
I think it's important for the community to know if the call is a criminal matter and a police matter. For example, we had an individual call because they had lost their keys and they wanted us to find them. And they knew the GPS coordinates, but it was unclear as to why it was a police matter. And so that's challenging because all calls are taken and then they're sent to the corresponding detachments for assessment to determine, how best to respond to them. So that's a lot of time that goes forward for a call that truly isn't a criminal matter. So familiarity around what is a criminal matter and how you call, that's important. The public can also do things like making sure they don't leave wallets in plain sight in vehicles, making sure vehicles are locked, making sure residences are secured. Those types of things go a long way in reducing calls for things that could be preventative. And at the same time, we're working on community safety where people do feel comfortable, securing their vehicle, valuables out of sight, and being able to walk through the community and feel comfortable and safe. And that is our goal.
Okay. And enhancing community safety and livability are some of your priorities as the superintendent. Can you elaborate on how you will work towards those goals?
That's exactly one of our priorities is the safety and livability in the community. And how we define that is that all residents would feel comfortable walking throughout our community and enjoying the wide variety of activities that we have here. So whether it's visiting a business, going to school, using our parks, using our recreation areas, our downtown areas, that people feel comfortable going there, that they don't have concerns about leaving their parked vehicle with their items stored out of sight, and that they have a pleasant experience. And that if citizens encounter one of our members of the Nanaimo RCMP, that it's a positive experience where the police have sufficient time and resources and that they can provide a professional service. I recognize that sometimes the decision as police officers we need to make, the public isn't always necessarily pleased with them, but it's my expectation that how the decision is reached and the actions that the police take are professionally well done and consistent with their training and our values. So, that is our goal.
And how do you prepare to reach that goal? We
work on it daily in terms of communication of expectations, ongoing training. We, as an organization, invest in a lot of training of our members, and it is refreshed often on an annual basis. So that is helpful, as well as setting expectations, and then trying to have enough resources that our members have capacity to spend the amount of time to do the job well. And it's challenging when they are trying to work through a solution and they're being called and interrupted to go to calls of higher priority. And then that creates dissatisfaction for everyone. It's hard on the people that see the police having to leave with their matter unresolved because of a larger priority. And likewise, the members, it impacts their job satisfaction as well. They've come into this role wanting to be engaged in service for the community and wanting to do their job in a fulsome manner. And so, working to make sure that they have adequate resources and that we have people in the right jobs and the right roles.
And for the layperson, could you elaborate on the training, the type of training that they do and the resources that they need to uphold their job successfully?
So there's a variety of courses that they will take. Some of them are online courses. Annually, they do all of their use of force training is refreshed on an annual and triannual basis depending on the national requirements. We participate in crisis intervention training. We do, it's called IMIM, and it's incident management and intervention training, and that's something that annually we take care of, we get recertified on. Respectful workplaces, it's called WMIS, but it's how to handle workplace safety issues. We also have, for example, like safe handling procedures for dealing with illegal drugs. I mean, those are some of the examples, along with driving courses and how to use various pieces of specialized equipment that we have to get certified on. And as well, there's courses in terms of cultural awareness and different ways of increasing the overall awareness and knowledge of members in our detachments on different community issues, gender-based analysis, reconciliation and Indigenous policing, and those are all a variety of courses that are available to us. Some of them are one-time courses that we take, and some of them are refreshed on annual and triannual basis. And then we have ongoing courses that are being developed at a national level, and then we participate in them. Some, as I said, online, some in classroom settings, and some are practical.
What kind of obstacles have you overcome in your time leading up to this recent promotion? Has gender diversity and inclusion ever been an issue in your experience?
In my experience, no. I look at policing that I'm a human, and just like all the other members, we are responding to the community that's made up of a mix of gender and other members with diversity. And it's about working with the community. It doesn't matter really whether the environment's, within the community or internally within the office. There's the same expectations in terms of behavior and conduct. And likewise, if I don't like something, I've always been compelled to say something and try and move the current situation in a better direction. And I think I bring my mediation skills with that. And that's something I've done throughout my career, so it's nothing new, and maybe that's contributed to a very positive work environment. And I may be doing things differently than some of my predecessors throughout the RCMP, just by virtue of my experiences and my skill set, but I'm hoping as well that when someone takes on this role, that they will also bring their skills and experiences and apply them to the best of their abilities. But I feel very fortunate to work with the RCMP and to work with so many great people.
Is there anything else you think people should know about you or your new role with the Nanaimo RCMP or the detachment itself?
I am very hopeful that along with the city of Nanaimo, that we will continue to be working towards providing a very high level of service to the community, and that we're in an exciting time. The city has come through the COVID pandemic, which was very hard on the entire community. And I think we're on the cusp of an exciting new stage. And I'm happy to be a part of that, and wanting to work closely with our partners to build forward for the community. And that involves how the police have a role in that, and what that looks like will involve a lot of community interaction. And we've seen that as really a societal trend in policing, that we are a part of the community and we work with the community in terms of resolving these issues, because as I've mentioned earlier, they're not straightforward criminal matters that we're more used to police being engaged with. And there's the expectation that we look for solutions using a variety of options available to us. And that's coming from, a series of directions. And it's consistent with how we work with our Crown Council and our courts, as well as our provincial partners.
Lisa Fletcher, the newly installed superintendent of the Nanaimo RCMP, speaking to CHLY's Elijah Robinson. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. It's time for one of nature's prettiest annual traditions. Every August, astronomy lovers can look to the skies and take in the striking Perseid meteor shower. But what exactly are these beautiful streaks we see, and why are we seeing them? To find out more about one of the biggest events on the astronomical calendar, I checked in with Dr. William Weller, a member of the Nanaimo Astronomy Society. The Perseid meteor shower, it's an annual event, and when we watch the Perseids, what are we actually seeing?
Well, what we're seeing is tiny flecks of stone entering the atmosphere. In space, there's lots of dust and junk lying about. It's not a clean and empty place, as you might think. And it's full of things called meteoroids, which are what meteors are before they enter the atmosphere, basically. And this particular shower comes from debris left behind by a comet. There was a comet Swift-Tuttle, which is a periodic comet, and it just so happens that the orbit of the Earth intersects the orbit of the comet. And so since the comet is sort of shedding dust into its orbit as it goes around, there's basically an elliptical path that's littered with extra dense material. And when the Earth runs into it, we see a shower.
Every year around the same time?
Every year, almost, yeah, it's very, very reliable. It's probably on now. Where's our date? It's the 8th. It will be starting pretty soon. The shower is not just one night. It starts slowly because, of course, it's not just a straight line of particles that we run into. It's a pretty big cloud. And so it starts, you'll see one or two a night, maybe for a few nights, and then it'll get gradually better and better. And then usually on about the 12th of August, plus or minus a day, you can see maybe 50 or 60 an hour. And they are quite bright. If you see them in a dark sky, they're quite spectacular.
Yeah, so when is the best time, like a time of day, to check out the Perseids?
Well, the time of day, that's an interesting question because at sunset, normally at this time of year, the radiant, that is to say where the comets or the particles seem to be coming from, is almost on the horizon. And so as the Earth turns, the radiant gets higher and higher, and we see more and more of them. So the best time is actually from about midnight to dawn, I guess, really, because then we are sort of facing into the shower, and we see more of them.
Okay, midnight's not too bad. I was thinking you might say something like 3 a.m.
Well, 3 a.m., no, that's included. Yeah, it's, it's not a sudden thing, as you say it. We gradually gets better and better, and then as we pass through the center of it, it tapers off. But yeah, anytime from midnight to 3 or 4 in the morning would be a wonderful time.
Do you need any specialized equipment to enjoy the Perseids?
No, not at all. They can appear, even though they appear to come from one spot in the sky, that is the radiant, they can appear anywhere in the sky. So your best bet is to get a nice comfy chair, and if it's cool, get a blanket over your legs or something, and a bit of mosquito repellent, and just look up. Just look at the sky. If it's nice and dark, you should see some nice meteors.
And what about the weather? Is that something that could interfere with watching the Perseids? How's the forecast looking?
Of course, if a cloud's over, you're not going to see it. So that's something to keep an eye on. But if it's clear sky, that's kind of out of the astronomer's hands. That's in the meteorologist's department.
Fair. And what can people, is there anything people should be really looking out for? If someone's never seen the Perseids, what can they expect?
Well, as I said, these are fairly spectacular. Well, and in our terms anyway, they're quite fast. They'll be hitting the atmosphere at something like 60 meters a second, or 215,000 kilometers an hour. So they get quite hot. The bits are only about the size of a grain of sand, but when they hit the atmosphere, they burn up. And so you tend to see a long streak of light, and occasionally you get a little explosion at the end, a little burst. And some of them will leave a trail behind that glows for a couple or 3 seconds. So, they're quite, it's quite interesting to see them.
So what we're seeing, you kind of already said this, but it's just kind of clicking in my head now. What we're seeing are actually like tiny grain of sand particles hitting the Earth's atmosphere, but we see them even though they're that small and kind of like a few kilometers away?
Well, they're actually something like 60 kilometers or so high when you see them. Yeah, they're quite bright. They really are quite bright and quite fast, mainly because that they're coming at us from the constellation of Perseus, apparently, although they're in orbit around the sun, of course. But the Earth is going against the flow, as it were. So you add up the two velocities, and so they're going quite fast. So they'll get up to like 1600 degrees C or something like that and burn up.
Whoa. And we can just see them because they're that bright, even though they're that tiny?
Even though they're that tiny, they're very, very bright. Yes.
That is so cool. Is there anything else you think people should know about the Perseids or even astronomy here in Nanaimo?
I can tell you a little bit about the comet it's responsible for.
Yes, please. I would love to hear.
Yeah, the comet itself is called Swift-Tuttle, and it has a catalog number, Comet 109P, P for periodic. It comes around once every 133 years, more or less. And the last one was 1992. It's something like 25 kilometers in diameter, which is about twice the size of the one that did in the dinosaurs. And it's been known for quite a while. The Perseids have been noted since early Greek times. In fact, Perseids refer to the sons of Perseus, which is the being in the constellation that they apparently come from. In medieval times, they were called the Tears of St. Lawrence because they occur pretty much regularly on the Catholics' Day of St. Lawrence. So it's quite interesting. The comet appearances have been traced back to about 200 AD.
So the comet passes by Earth every few hundred years, and
every 133 years, yeah.
Yeah, every 133 years, and it leaves behind a residue for the next 133 years?
Yeah, as it's going around in its orbit, it's shedding. Like when you see a comet, you can see that halo around it, right?
Yeah.
There's a star-like thing, and there's a halo around it. And that halo is mostly gas, which is being driven off by the heat of the sun as it gets closer to the sun. But it carries with it particles of sand and ice and other debris. And that, over time, just spreads out along the whole orbit. And so there's this big elliptical ring of dust and bits and pieces around it. And every time we pass through it, we see that shower.
Okay.
And in fact, you can predict, and there are many, many showers. Some you can predict whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one by the behavior of the comet 200 years ago or 300 years ago. And if people said, oh, it was a fantastic appearance of a comet, and everybody was afraid, that's when it discharges a lot of material. And if we run through that part of the orbit, then we get a spectacular meteor display.
Oh.
It's really quite interesting, the dynamics of it all.
I see. So the Earth passes by like different parts. So different times the comet has passed by Earth. Like 1992, you said was the last one, versus 133 years before that. We would have passed through different, like we would have met, if you will, at different parts in the comet's orbit.
Exactly right.
Okay,
exactly
so the comet
right.
is going to look a little different each time it passes by the Earth.
Exactly.
Is there ever a risk of it hitting it?
Well, actually, I looked into that. And it turns out not in the very long foreseeable future. Somebody, there's a fellow called Brian Marsden, has taken all of the historical data and the current observations and run a model on that. And apparently there's no danger of collision for quite some long time.
Okay,
That is to say, in millions of years, not centuries.
Perfect. Well, I mean, if the last one was in 1992 and it's 133 years, I guess we're probably not going to see the next one anyway.
2125. I know I'm not going to see it. No, I don't think anybody alive today is going to see the next one. But if there's anything left in the historical records after the current politicians get done with us, somebody will be able to look it up. We did have a collision with something not that big. I don't remember. Do you remember Chelyabinsk? There's an explosion over the Russian city of Chelyabinsk. Must have been 15 or 20 years ago now. That was only a 20-meter wide asteroid, but it released enough energy. Well, it was like 25 times the bomb that did in Hiroshima, and that was a relatively small one. So, we keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember when I was a lot younger and dinosaurs were the most important thing in my world. I was naturally very afraid of a meteor striking the Earth.
That's right, yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the French comic Asterix.
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, yes. Well, may the sky not fall on your head. Remember, the chieftain was always afraid that the sky would fall on his head.
The same to you, Bill. May the sky not fall on your head. Bill Weller, a PhD holder in experimental space science and member of the Nanaimo Astronomy Society, on the Perseid meteor shower, which is in full swing this week. You can take in the Perseids by looking up at the night sky August 11th, 12th, or 13th. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. COVID changed the way we took in a whole lot of art forms, from movies to music and everything in between. Shows moved online or were canceled altogether. There is perhaps no art form more dependent on the magic only a live audience can bring than the theater, which makes it extra exciting that the Nanaimo Fringe Festival is set to go ahead with in-person shows over the next 2 weeks. I spoke with Bryony Dixon, artistic managing producer of the festival, about this year's event. What exactly is a Fringe Festival?
It's basically a really accessible theatre festival. It's not just theatre. You can do theatre, dance, comedy, stand-up, performance art, spoken word poetry, those types of things. It's pretty open access as a framework. We don't curate the festival. It's all based on a lottery application process, so anyone can apply. And then we draw from different categories at our particular festival. So we take local performers. Usually, this is a strange year because of COVID, but usually we have a local category, a national category, and an international category. And last year, we've also introduced a kind of equity category for artist sponsorships if they were Indigenous or newcomers to Nanaimo. And we had some local community sponsors for those categories to reduce financial barriers for that type of thing. So it's, but basically, it's a festival where you can perform, and we get all sorts of emerging artists, established artists coming and applying, and then it's a luck-based system on if you get drawn or not.
And you mentioned this is a weird year because of COVID. How did that affect the festival? Are there still a lot of in-person shows? What were some of the challenges?
There is. Last year, we pivoted to completely online. And then this year, with things opening back up a bit, actually more than we hoped, we're able to do a hybrid of both. So we're going to have in-person shows at the Port Theatre and the newly rebranded OV Art Centre, which used to be the Harbour City Theatre. And we've also got outdoor stuff this year, which to me is part of Fringe, but I think that's new for Nanaimo Fringe. I've only been running it for 2 years. So we're going to do an outdoor stage at Gallery Row in the Old City Quarter, and we're going to have some street performers around and a beer garden there, and that type of thing.
Are there any specific shows in this year's festival that you think people should really get excited about?
Well, I haven't seen any of them yet because as I say, it's not curated. So really, an artist just applies and gives us a short synopsis, and they don't even have to stick to that up until the festival. So I know the kind of general content of what the shows are going to be. We've got a few one-person shows. We've got a musical that's, because it's COVID, they've not been able to really rehearse to make it a full production. So it's going to be a stage reading, but something a bit more larger scale. We've got a magic act. We've got lots of variety show type thing, puppet kind of dance show with projections and puppets and things. So there's a real variety. But personally, I haven't seen any until the festival starts. And then each artist has 6 times to perform. So that's really when the word starts to spread. Oh, I saw this the other day and it's really good. And you should go check it out on one of the other times that it's showing.
And there's a free preview night next Thursday at the Port Theatre, right? For people to check things out?
Yes, exactly. We have a free preview night. So each artist has a 5-minute slot to offer a kind of teaser of their show. So it can kind of help the patrons decide on where they want to be kind of scheduling their week and what they want to be seeing. Yeah.
And is there anything that sets Nanaimo's Fringe Festival apart from ones people might be familiar with in other cities?
Well, obviously it's Nanaimo's flavor. That's what's so good about the Fringe. Each city is kind of based around the city that it comes from. So, of course, we've got lots of local performers here. So the shows will speak to topics that local audiences are familiar with, probably. But certainly, like, Nanaimo Fringe is up and coming, right? We're trying to grow it. We're really great. We've got a really great kind of scheduling setup with Victoria and Vancouver Fringe, so that the artists can kind of hit all 3 while they're here and when we do touring stuff. So we've got that going for us as well. But as I say, like, this is kind of my first year putting on the real thing. I'm hoping to build a real buzz around it and really try and push the outside stuff a little bit more, because we live in a beautiful part of the country and everyone wants to be outside. So hopefully that can kind of be what Nanaimo stands out as being, a bit more of an event that pulls people from outside and inside and online and all sorts of things. I think we've got the reputation of being as well like because we're smaller, we can pivot. When we've had these huge global upsets, we've been able to transition and we didn't need to cancel. So we've also got that going for us, that kind of reputation now as being the little Fringe that could, and we kind of make it happen.
So with that, are there any restrictions at all or any things people need to know about going into the Fringe?
Yeah, we have like limited venue capacity, obviously. So the Port Theatre is not going to be an 800-seat house. We're going to have the audience a little bit more limited on stage, so it feels a bit more Fringe. But we obviously have a maximum capacity of 60 people to fit with distancing requirements and things. But we're allowed more people than we hoped initially. So we're just going to obviously ask patrons to respect distancing and masks if they obviously they're recommended. And then we've got other options for people that can't attend in person. So that's really what we're trying to do, just make it available to everybody, whether they feel comfortable gathering again in person or not.
And what do you think it means to have live theater back in town? And this is probably the first time a lot of people have the chance to see it in years at this point.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not even an exaggeration, is it? It's huge. I mean, the energy of a live event is unbeatable. And I think theatre is well positioned because it's not a stadium filler. It's not huge arenas that we're filling. So it's a really good way of getting back out there, getting some arts and culture going again. That's really it. Like the artists and technicians that have been so badly affected by this pandemic, right? And just being able to support as a festival, that's really what we're doing. We want to keep it going in any capacity that we can, because that's who we're really trying to help here and support, as the artists and the technicians and the local people that benefit from this type of economic activity, right? So I think the patrons are going to be excited to be able to see in-person stuff again and not be on screens anymore. That's going to be really refreshing. And artists and technicians are just like chomping at the bit to get back out there and do what they love doing.
And is there anything else you think people need to know about Nanaimo Fringe that we haven't touched on so far?
We've also got a rap event. So we kind of, we want the audience we do an audience pick of the Fringe every year. So the audience pick their favorite show and we vote for it. And then we award that show the prize Pick of the Fringe at the end of the festival. So that'll be on the 22nd in the beer garden at Gallery Row. And we're going to have a karaoke kind of night, and all the artists will be there. And audiences up to the capacity are invited to come for free and join in and see the presentation and join in karaoke if they want. So yeah, that's a new thing this year. We're just trying to have a bit of fun. And as we close out the festival.
Bryony Dixon, artistic managing producer of the Nanaimo Fringe Festival, which takes place around town August 12th to 22nd. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. If the apocalypse hit and you had to live off the land, only eating what you could grow or catch, how long could you survive? Well, the apocalypse hasn't hit us yet, but the COVID-19 pandemic got one Pender Island couple thinking about what they eat and where it comes from. Stephanie Lowey and Chris Hall went an entire year only eating what they could catch, grow, harvest, or raise, right down to the basics like sugar, salt, and flour. They recently finished their challenge and spoke with me about their experience. Congratulations on completing your year. I'm wondering, how have you celebrated so far?
Oh, yeah. We've got some horrible friends that have fed us way too much booze and food. So, we've celebrated a number of different ways, and we feel like we're paying the price now.
Amazing. During the challenge, you fished, you raised livestock, you farmed. I'm wondering what kind of experience you had in all of those going into it.
For myself, I had little to no experience in all three of those categories. Was not a big gardener before, no green thumb. Had never raised a chicken or a duck, and rarely went out fishing, only when my dad forced me to.
Okay, so I had a little bit more experience than that, but still definitely an amateur. I've had a sort of basic vegetable garden for a while, and I've done some fishing and crabbing out here in the Gulf Islands, but never raised poultry, and certainly weren't an expert in any of those categories either.
So how did it go at the start?
Yeah, it was a couple of really long days to start out with, lots of infrastructure to be put in place. So lots of work to start out, but slowly it started to get a little less time consuming. And
what were some of the biggest challenges over the whole year?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges for us, and especially over the winter, was just kind of it got a little monotonous with the things that we were eating. So, we're very fortunate to be here on the Pacific West Coast, and lots of food that's available right through the winter. But we kind of got tired of eating the same thing and not kind of having the luxury of buying sauces and spices and things like that you'd normally use to flavor your food. So it definitely got a little bit monotonous at points.
What were some of the same things?
Lots of chicken and potatoes and kale and
seaweed when we ran low on vegetables. So yeah, a lot of those things.
And on some of your videos on your YouTube channel, you mentioned how difficult it was to go through the experience of raising some livestock and some poultry and then later eating it. Is that something you can speak to?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's something that, Steph and I neither had to do before. And, we both kind of grew up in privileged lifestyles where we never really had to think about where our food was coming from. And you walk into the grocery store and pick out a chicken breast or a piece of meat and don't really have to think about too much about how it got to that point. So, raising and then harvesting our own food was definitely an eye-opening and emotional experience and definitely hasn't gotten easier. but you do have a much greater appreciation for your food, I think, when you do it yourself. So not that we were wasteful before, but if we bought a roast chicken, we kind of eat the breast and the legs and the wings, and the rest would end up in the garbage. And now we sort of make sure that we use absolutely everything from, using the chicken livers to make pate and everything right down to the bones. We make our own bone meal for the garden. So I would say we have a much greater appreciation for our food now that we've kind of raised it ourselves and grown it ourselves.
And now that the year is over, what do you plan to do? Like, do you plan to continue doing a lot of what you were doing this whole year? Are you just going to make the challenge lifelong, or how does the adjustment happen?
Yeah, so we both really fell in love with this lifestyle and the way we've been so in tune with our food. I think we'll probably keep with about 95% of it, allowing for the odd meals out and maybe a coffee in the morning. But we've loved this experience, so I don't foresee it changing too much.
Were there any really unexpected things you learned doing it?
I think there are lots of things. It's been such a big learning curve. And like I said, our lack of variety was probably one of our biggest challenges. So pretty much every week, we've sort of taken on a task of trying to learn something new or find something else that's edible. And I would say the biggest thing we've learned is just how much food is available and out there to forage that you don't even have to grow once you kind of know what's available. And, things like hostas are a plant that most people have in their yards but don't know are edibles. And salal berries are everywhere on the Pacific West Coast here. And seaweed, just about every variety of seaweed is edible, and finding the ones that kind of taste good and learning all about that, and berries and foraging mushrooms and all sorts of things that are just sort of readily available. But because they're not trendy or in grocery stores, people don't think to eat them.
And this kind of got started because there was this maybe opportunity, you could call it, created by the pandemic, right?
Yeah, I think the pandemic really put things into perspective for us, seeing grocery stores run out of some basic needs and wondering what would happen if we got into a place where we couldn't readily get our food from the grocery store. Could we survive, and what would that look like, and how much work does it take to get to that point of self-sufficiency?
So if there are people who are maybe intrigued by the challenge but don't think they could maybe make it a whole year, or don't have the time or space or opportunity or resources to do the full challenge, do you think there are things that everyone could take away from what you did this past year? And what do you think those things are?
Yeah, definitely. Again, we sort of realized our privilege to be here on an island on half an acre and have access to the ocean. So we recognize that, and it's certainly not something that everybody's in a position to be able to do. But there's definitely parts of it that people can do. And like I was mentioning with the foraging, even if you're in an apartment building in the city, there's things that you can kind of get out into the wilderness and forage, or grow a few plants on your deck or a patio, or even inside your house. We were growing wheatgrass inside during the winter. So there's lots of little things that people can do. So I would say just do a little bit of research and start small, and continue to build on that if you enjoy doing it.
And is there anything else you think is a big lesson, or that you'd like to share with people about your whole experience this past year?
I think one of the biggest takeaways throughout this challenge was just the waste reduction that we had. Of course, things come packaged from the grocery store, but we really never realized just how much packaging is associated with food, and the amount of waste that we were able to eliminate from that has just been incredible. And I think one of our favorite parts of it, but definitely something that we didn't take into account before we started.
Well, anything else you'd like to add, Chris?
Yeah, I don't think so. If people are kind of interested in learning some of the things that we've done and some of our challenges, and we've kind of tried to give an honest interpretation of what it was like for a couple amateurs to try this for the first time, then people can check out our YouTube channel where we did weekly videos on YouTube at Lovin' Off the Land.
Well, Chris and Stef, thank you so much for taking some time and giving me some insight into your wild year. And enjoy the celebrations, but not too much.
Yeah, I think we're done celebrating. We're going back. We're going back to our old ways now.
Stephanie Lowey and Chris Hall from Pender Island, speaking with me about their experience this past year, eating only what they could catch, grow, raise, or harvest. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. There is some new staff on the payroll at the Regional District of Nanaimo. They don't have direct deposit, though. In fact, they just get paid in leaves, grass, and whatever else they can munch on. Don't tell the labor board. All kidding aside, everyone's fine with the arrangement because the new staff are goats. To find out how and why these new employees got involved, I chatted with Jane Hamilton, Superintendent of Landfill Operations with the Regional District of Nanaimo. How did the idea to use goats come about?
It came about through staff at work. They know a couple who are offering this service, and considering we have a lot of steep slopes and difficult areas, it was really a suggestion and for a local small business, and so we thought we'd give them a try.
You mentioned steep slopes, small areas. What exactly are the goats doing?
The goats are set up in areas that are very hard for our staff to reach on foot or even with machinery. So there's a lot of steep slopes. There are areas that are rocky, that are full of blackberries. And so the goats we're starting them off on more level ground, and we're going to progress them to more difficult terrain as they go. But we thought we'd try them out. It's ideal conditions for a goat, but not so great for staff.
And are the goats typically well behaved?
They are. They're quiet. There has been a few escapes, and we had to round them up again. But they go to work busily at in the patch that they're fenced in. So they strip all the leaves off the blackberries. We're hoping that will be enough to kill them. They eat all day. They don't fuss. They're quiet. It's great.
I was wondering about that. So the goats, they have like an endless appetite. You don't need to worry about them like not being ready to go.
No, I think they can handle all that we have to give them for sure. It's watering. Make sure they have water. Their handlers take care of that. But it's in the heat. They have some shelter and some shade. But for the most part, they're cruising and munching all day long. It's fabulous.
Okay, but have there been any unexpected consequence of using these goats, I wonder?
At the moment, it seems to be okay. They're doing the work we hoped they would do. There has been a few minor escapes. They're in the back, so they're not a nuisance to the neighbors. And they do make a little noise, like they baa or whatever the noise a goat makes. They're very friendly. They want to greet everybody, and anyone that's in the area, they will definitely migrate to them. The unintended consequences, I think there's positive consequences, and it's more or less one, staff safety, but two, low impact. It's low carbon. They certainly make a bit of a mess, but no more than the other animals. So I think they fit our organization, and we're trying to go more green, more low carbon, meet our carbon neutral plan. So it's really, the upsell is lack of fuel and burning of fuel, which we do a lot of here at the landfill in our heavy equipment. So any opportunities to reduce that is fabulous for us.
And is this something we could see more of with goats or maybe other animals in kind of urban applications? I
think in certain applications, it's certainly suitable. Like for us, where we are pretty rural still and outside of town, they suit our need very well, and it's ideal for them, and it's ideal for us. So we're thinking it's definitely something you'll see more of in the future, I would say. And even for us, I expect we will bring them in certain times of year in the spring and fall, and get those areas that are so hard to do.
And anything else you think people need to know about the use of goats at the Regional District of Nanaimo?
I didn't. I did it more. We did it more just to be a good neighbor, be conscientious of staff, and low carbon. I think those are all benefits that are positive for the community. It's unusual, but I think you will start to see more of that as people look for more either energy efficient or low carbon or low fuel options. And it's a win-win situation for us. So I expect you'll see it again.
Perfect. Thanks so much for taking some time to speak with me about these goats.
No problem, Joe Pugh, anytime. You're welcome to come on out and say hi.
Cool. Yeah, can you pet the goats? Is that a thing? Are goats, how friendly are they?
They're in a remote part of the landfill, but we do take people back, or people have gone back. Staff at lunchtime, for example, will walk out and see them. And when just in staff and maintaining the grounds around them, they're very friendly. But we haven't let the public back there. But with an escort, sure, we'd let you come say hi.
Oh, privileged access.
We got to take care of everybody who comes on the site. So, yeah, we don't let people loose all over the place, but. And even the goats, they're penned up and pretty monitored. But we try to take care of them because there is an opportunity for things to go wrong. But we want to make it a positive thing and keep a good eye on them.
Jane Hamilton, Superintendent of Landfill Operations with the Regional District of Nanaimo, speaking on goats that have been helping out with some landscaping work. That's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Midcoast Morning is hosted and produced by Joe Pugh and Elijah Robinson. Thank you to Jesse Woodward and RB Frew for production assistance. Our theme music is Good Company from Nanaimo band Venice. You can find their music on Bandcamp. You can also help support Midcoast Morning as a project of CHLY's news department by making a donation at chly.ca/donate. Have a story you'd like us to cover or feedback on a previous story? Email us at news@chly.ca. For everyone at Midcoast Morning, thanks again for listening.